Well, hello everyone, welcome back to Adrian's Digital Basement 2. On today's video, well, after the last video on the second channel where I tried to do a tube swap on that little Panasonic CCTV monitor and it was a complete and utter failure, well, at the end of that video I was feeling kind of depressed that it didn't go so well and that whole thing was just a failure. So I went online and I clicked a few things and I bought something. And I'm hoping that that's going to make me feel a little bit better. And well, let's see about that. So I'm going to move all this stuff off the bench, make some space, and let's check out what I've gone ahead and bought. Here it is. Does that fit in frame? Nope, not quite. We have new old stock 9-inch CCTV monitors. Hopefully they're brand new and this is a bigger box than you would think for 9-inch monitors because there should be 2 of them in here. So taking a look at the corner here, we can see this is a Pelco PMM9A 9-inch black and white monitor, EIA/CCIR. That means it's sort of NTSC and PAL, even though there's no color with a monochrome monitor. 100 to 240 volts, revision E, because I'm sure this is similar to a lot of the security camera monitors that have been out there over the years, but they've probably been revised because this obviously has a switch mode power supply to allow it to have this multi-voltage. If we look at the end of the box, there's the Pelco logo, and it looks all the same except we have a date. February 4th, 2008, if we're going to go by US dates, or April 2nd, 2008, if we go back to the international standard. Now, after that last video that was a total failure, I started looking on eBay just to kind of see if I could, well, just pick up one of these little monitors cheap. And unfortunately, one of the biggest problems when you start searching for CCTV monitors, these little 9-inch variety, is that a lot of times they are used for their intended purpose, as in CCTV. So like that little Panasonic one we worked on in the last video, the screens are often super burned in. And a lot of times the sellers on eBay don't really know how to describe the condition of the CRT. And I could see in a lot of the photos they were really burned in, but even worse than that is people were asking outrageous amounts of money for a lot of them. So when I saw these new old stock Pelcos, I thought, hey, you know what? If I want to get a monitor that's not going to be burned in, well, this is certainly one way to do it. Now, I thought that the price was pretty reasonable, although, you know, kind of expensive for completely obsolete technology of what we have here. Pelco seems to have been selling these things pretty late. I mean, you see by the 2008 date on here. I don't know when they actually stopped selling these CRT monitors, but there were a good number of these used on eBay. But it felt again like the used versions, which are potentially all super worn out, were very similarly priced to these new old stock ones. Now, I haven't even opened this. It still has these straps on it and stuff. So hopefully these work and hopefully these are what they said they are. I mean, it's got certainly the weight of 2 CRT little cube monitors. So I guess now's a good time to find out. I have to presume that these were sitting in someone's warehouse for a good amount of time and well, they just decided to start selling them, which is sort of the story of all new old stock stuff. The box is in pretty good shape. I mean, there's a little bit of a dent from those straps because I think people were lifting it by those for shipping and stuff like that, but the box is not crushed otherwise. So I'm hoping that inside we have 2 smaller boxes. So these are double boxed, I'm presuming. This seller was selling them individually and I just happened to order 2 because I was like, you know what, how often, like when am I going to find 2 more brand new old stock of these? So I just said, I'll just get them both. Yes, looks like exactly that. We have 2 smaller boxes inside, which presumably are the monitors. And you know what? This outer box is nice and sturdy, so those straps that kind of cut into it didn't affect these little boxes at all. And let's get these out. Oh boy, definitely CRTs, that's for sure. So I can tell you without a doubt, this one has never been opened. The tape on the top is completely unmolested. Pelco PMM9A. There it is again. Oh, it's lead-free, PB-free, which is weird because I'm pretty sure the glass on CRT has lead in it. So how could it be lead-free? But I suppose the soldering is lead-free. Look at this. That's like mint freaking condition. Love it. And here's the second one, same thing, looks good. You know what, there's something fun about opening new old stock stuff. And I know this is not that old, like we saw the date on the outside box from 2008, but still, these are CRTs. They're new CRTs from 2008. I saw a serial number sticker. There's a serial number sticker there. And there's another one. Oh yeah, okay. 802021 316 and 315. So 1 digit off, these two guys. The seller in the listing had one of these open just to kind of show inside, you know, had the styrofoam and the bag and the manual and all that kind of stuff. But these two, as I said, the tape has never been opened on the top. And on the bottom, same thing, never been opened. So this is factory fresh, factory sealed. Now, of course, it's quite possible that these don't work. I mean, I'm sure the CRT itself is fresh, because that was the biggest worry, that I had a bad CRT, worn out or whatever. Clearly, that's not going to be the case with these. And if they are actually broken, I should be able to repair them, unless something catastrophic has died, like the flyback. That would be the only component that would not be findable. Now, I did do some searching ahead of time for this model, the Pelco PMM9A, to try to find any kind of schematics, and I wasn't able to find any. Now, the thing is, I'm positive this is just an OEM. Pelco didn't actually design this monitor. I think this comes out of Taiwan, the same factory that's been making all of those small CCTV monitors going back all the way into the 80s. So it's very possible there are schematics for like one of the other variants of this monitor. So there's the original manual, which you could find online. It doesn't have the schematics or anything, but Pelco sold a 9-inch, a 12-inch, a 15-inch, and a 20-inch version of this monitor, all with monochrome CRTs. It's pretty wild to think a 20-inch monochrome CRT was available in 2008. I'd kind of love to get one of those, because like, it's just really unusual to find 20-inch monochrome CRTs. I mean, that was something that was a big deal in the old days with black and white televisions, but certainly, you know, by the 80s, it felt like, you know, 13-inch, 12-inch was the biggest you'd ever see monochrome. And then the 9-inch obviously was super common on Macintoshes. I'm sure there's going to be P4 phosphor, you know, just like Macs. We'll find out, because I'm going to open this thing up. We're going to find out if this has like front-facing ears, back-facing ears, how good of a monitor it is. We'll look inside. I'll be able to recommend whether these are good if you want to use one of these with an Apple II as like its, you know, retro monitor. Even though it's from 2008, it's going to look perfect as if it was paired with a 1970s computer, because the design of these, I can guarantee you, is pretty much going to be identical, visually at least, to one of these monitors from the early 80s, if not late 70s, at least from the photos I saw. And the only telltale, of course, that it's modern, like I said, was the switch mode power supply that this must have, because it supports that multi-voltage stuff. Wow, minty fresh, minty fresh. Inside the box, it's funny, there's a little bit of a dent in the cardboard down here. I wonder if there's a power cord on the bottom there, kind of stuffed in, and maybe that was just pushing down on there, but otherwise, looking good. No mildew or bad damp smells or anything. So wherever this was stored, it was not stored in a damp place. And yes, this is the bottom of the monitor, and there is the power cord. That was what was digging into that. That's what was digging into it. In fact, that's funny. It has a European plug on it. Or maybe it's got 2 power cords, but at least has one that has a German style plug right with the 2 prongs. It's a grounded type. That's what was digging in, because it's bigger than the US North American type plug. Well, I just have to say, I'm kind of giddy with this whole thing, because it is unboxing a new CRT, and it's just not something that, you know, I'd ever think I would be doing again. But here we go. This won't have scratches on it. It won't have a bunch of burn-in on the CRT. It won't have a bunch of soot on the inside. It's just going to work, hopefully. And if not, like I said, it'll be a repair video, and then probably be the only repair video for one of these Pelcos on the entire internet, because there really isn't much out there when it comes to these Pelcos. Okay, so yes, we do have standard North American IEC mains plug, plus the European, German, I don't know which other countries use this, but 2 prongs, but it's the grounded type. And here is the monitor. And it's cute, and it's small, and it smells like, yes, it smells like toxic plastic. You know, that awesome new electronics smell. Look at that. Manual, power cords, hell yeah. So there she is. So this thing looks exactly like the Pi 4 monitor. I've had a video, I'll link to it in the description. The Pi 4 is an amber version of this monitor, but it's identical. I have that Pi 4 upstairs. I'm just gonna grab it so we can really compare these side by side, because I'm pretty sure, at least from the front plastics standpoint, it's going to be identical. But this obviously is gonna be a white phosphor CRT. And actually, I have my little UV flashlight here. Here, let's tell, oh yeah, P4 phosphor. So kind of a cool blue, white color on the phosphor. Okay, here's the USI Pi 4. So it's absolutely pretty much identical on the front. Let me get the camera situated a little bit better here. It's not 100% exactly the same. The bezel plastic on the new one isn't textured as much and it feels kind of cheap, like cheaply made. This is actually a little bit more textured, a little bit higher quality, but you know, I think that's just absolutely a nitpick. Both of these have the power LED right there. So I think like from the front plastic standpoint, these are probably interchangeable. The front door that's on here, so that's the USI Pi 4. This actually was given to me by Polymat. I had the original front door, but mine has a chipped little lever thing here. So this is a replacement that Polymat made. If anything, I could actually swap my Pi 4 door over onto this monitor if I really wanted to kind of get rid of this Pelco logo that's on it. I mean, it doesn't bother me that much, but just if I did. And if we flip that down, okay, well that's weird. So this door doesn't actually go down properly. Let's just take a look at what's going on there. From a case standpoint, the Pi 4, as you can see, it has like a beige color. This has a kind of a dark gray. They both have a carry handle on the top though. This one is black plastic. This one is sort of a beige plastic. Let's move this so I can investigate what's wrong with that door though. Looks like the front plastic, it has two fasteners here. Let's loosen those up. It seems like the plastic isn't quite installed correctly. What's going on here? Let's take these fasteners out altogether actually. Not the best build quality if you can't even get the door down. How did that even pass QA? What I'm talking about, if you can notice, there's no gap here, but as we get down to the bottom, it kind of pulls away a little bit. I'm wondering if that has something to do with why I can't open this door. I don't want to, oh, there we go. Oh, I see. It's just kind of designed that way. I guess I should have just tried a little bit harder. All right, well, things look pretty much identical in here. Horizontal hold, vertical hold, brightness contrast, and our power switch. And there is a little legend on the door itself for those indicators. Yeah, okay, this actually works fine now. I don't know why it wasn't going down. Comparing to the Pi 4 with the replacement door, vertical hold, horizontal hold, brightness contrast. So same. Let's see, the quality of the knobs. It all seems a little bit better quality on the Pi 4, just probably because they have cheapened it over the years. I think this is, the Pi 4 has a manufacture date of 1982. So it just kind of tells you they were making this design for so long, which is completely ludicrous to me, isn't it? We're certainly going to see some differences on the inside. Now, again, USI was not the manufacturer of this monitor. They were an OEM. I've seen, looking on eBay, lots of other sellers that sell ones that look just like this, like the Pelco, like the USI, but with different brand names on them. So there was some factory in Taiwan that was sort of pumping these out for a long time. And, you know, there's obviously some updates over the years because switch mode power supply, not switch mode power supply. The USI actually has a DC input plus fixed main cord. Then it has this old 70s style input, but then it also has an RCA jack, which I did not add. Several switches for like different modes. In fact, you can invert the polarity and there's a width control. And so anyways, the focus of this is not the USI monitor. There is a video on that if you want to check that out. Let's take a look at the back side of this. Oh, wow. We really don't have a whole lot going on. Video in and out. And then we have a high-low jack and that, or switch, that'll have to do with the termination. So on or off. Clearly the back plate has been simplified and there are no more controls anymore for all that adjustability and stuff you had on the other one. Let's take a look at the bottom. I just want to see, oh yeah, the bottom also has no kind of access to the PCB. Sometimes there's a removable cover with some vent holes and stuff so you can access the bottom of the PCB for making adjustments. That is not the case. I did take a look at the bottom of the USI monitor and it does have vents, but it does not also have an access panel. But some of my other little cube monitors I have do have a panel that you can pop off the bottom so you can easily work on them. Let's just peruse the manual. I know there's really nothing to see in here because I had already looked at it. It says here, the PMM9A, black and white, 9-inch, 96 to 256 volts AC, 50-60 hertz, EIA, CCIR auto sensing. And then all the other larger versions have the same specs. They just, well, voltage specs and whatever, just larger picture tube, obviously. If you're going to be using this as a single monitor, you hook it up to the input and you set it to low. So when that switch is in the low position, it connects the 75 ohm termination internally. You set it to high if you're going to cascade multiple monitors together, so camera, and you can hook up like as many monitors as you want, and only the very last one requires that switch set. This manual obviously is for all 4 versions, because this picture here doesn't even match the monitor that we have here, but they all seem to have the same controls: vertical, horizontal control, or hold controls, brightness and contrast, hinged cover. Video input should be 1 volt peak to peak, standard, composite video type thing. Damp cloth to clean. And that's it. We just have our specs at the end here. Power consumption, 28 watts on the 9-inch, 30 watts on the 12, 15 for the 35, and 48 watts for the 20-inch. It's amazing that the 12-inch only has 2 extra watts of usage. It says that the input bandwidth is 10 megahertz. I find that a little hard to believe. We're going to find out when I plug this into a computer how sharp the text is, but that seems a little excessive for the 9-inch version. But maybe electronically they're all the same and they just end up using the same circuitry for like the 20-inch on this version, with a different flyback for the different voltage and stuff, but otherwise the same. More than 1,000 lines of horizontal resolution. So when it's talking about that, it's talking about its ability to resolve horizontal pixels. I mean, it's a CRT, it's monochrome, it doesn't have a shadow mask, there are no pixels, but a lot of the circuitry that's in here, the cathode drive circuitry, determines how sharp it's going to be and if it can resolve, say, 640 by 200 resolution, and you have really clear pixels if you're looking at 80 column text. That was what these security camera monitors in the 70s were really good for compared to monochrome televisions. If you used an RF modulator, they, even though it was monochrome TV, they did not resolve the 80 column text properly, just because there was so much bandwidth lost to the RF signal, 6 megahertz. That's one of the reasons why composite video has the ability to be so much sharper, especially monochrome signals, because you don't have to worry about the whole color burst and interference from that. So you can easily display 800 pixels across, 900 pixels across with composite video and have a really perfectly sharp image if the cathode drive circuit in the monochrome set can resolve that. So that's what I'm really curious about, is like, how good is this compared to some of those other ones like the Pi 4? Hopefully it's good. It does say though, yeah, 1,000 lines. That just seems a bit optimistic. In case you were wondering, this monitor is 10.45 pounds or 4.75 kilograms in mass. And that's pretty much it. This had a warranty of, it looks like 1 year from date of shipment. Well, I didn't buy it right from them. And I can tell you for sure that Pelco does not make these anymore, because if you look at their website, they do have a listing for this, but it says like, this is a horribly obsolete piece of technology, like use a newer monitor. They still sell security camera monitors and stuff like that. But yeah, obviously, I mean, that's all there is to really say about this. Oh, there it is, Pelco, world headquarters in Clovis, California. It looks like this Pelco company does have an office, or did at least, in the Netherlands, UK, and in Canada. There we go. Okay, well, I guess what I really need to do, I need to see if this thing works. The listing for this thing didn't say whether it worked, because obviously this thing's never been opened. So, I'd like to know if it does or not before I go opening it up. Okay, video input is connected. It's hooked up to power. Let's turn it on. Nothing so far. Let me turn this on. And we have nothing. Okay, well, our first one is dead. Let's just make sure I plug this in all the way. I mean, I certainly did. Not off to a good start. Not off to a good start at all. Basically showing no signs of life whatsoever. All right, I guess I should unbox the other one and we give that a try. This was not supposed to be a repair. I'm serious, this was not supposed to be a repair. Just to make sure we have everything working, I'm gonna grab the Pi 4, which I gotta say is actually heavier. I think it's made with thicker metal. But let's plug it in the video input to this. And let's see if it works. Just wanna make sure. So I'll pop this on. Of course it turns right on. This has got a transformer inside. This is not a switch mode power supply. There it is, looking good. Oh wow, scratchy pots, scratchy pots. Oh yeah, it's bright. Oh yeah, this thing I don't think was used very much. So it's got a really nice bright amber CRT, and I have the shop lights on down here, so that's kind of washing it out. It looks fantastic. This monitor has a transformer, like a linear type supply in there, so therefore it's ultra reliable. The 2008 Cat Plague Pelco probably has a switch mode power supply. That just does not work. Part of me is not surprised at all it didn't work. I wouldn't be surprised if this one's probably broken in exactly the same way. All right, monitor number 2. It's also in perfect condition. Has the same weird issue with the front plastic kind of curves out a little bit that I thought was keeping the door from working on the other one. Yeah, and the door sort of doesn't really want to go. There we go. It's like the first open doesn't really want to open on both of these. I'm sure it's because the plastic itself, over time, I think the plastic swells, and it's, you know, it's cheap plastic or whatever. Oh, I see. Yeah, it has. So you have to kind of push in the middle, and then it works perfectly. So if you open it and push in the middle, then it goes down. Not great. Yeah, it seems if anything, it's kind of like bowed out a little bit. All right, well, let's see. Does this one not work in the same way? I won't be surprised if it also is dead. Okay, here we go. So switch is on, but the power strip is off. Here we go, 3, 2, 1, dead as well. Both dead. I'm wondering if I should contact the seller. Probably I should, and just be like, FYI, both of these are broken. You might want to let people know if they buy them that they do not work. Maybe that's why they were also relatively cheap, because they knew that they're broken. That's quite possible. So with the cover off, lead-free sticker. That's funny. It's supposed to be a warranty void sticker. It didn't tear it or anything. All right, well, inside it is minty fresh as expected. I would thought that switch mode power supply would actually be separate, but it's on the main board. Curious. So we do have controls here along this bottom edge. There's V linearity, vertical size, focus, and sub brightness, all readily available. Without a doubt, this thing has never ever been used. I mean, other than factory testing, I presume. You can unplug the power connector. That's nice. Now, the little input jack board definitely has stuff here for additional switches that aren't populated, plus rear audio. I guess it has audio support as well. Not this monitor, obviously does not have a speaker, but this thing does support audio. Best thing for me to do, I think, is just take the screws out for this little module thingamajiggy. Okay, so I really need to get this top cover off, and hopefully the CRT is supported by something metal underneath, and it's not just held up by this cover. We will find out shortly. All right, so it looks like the CRT is screwed in to the plastic, so I have to be careful. And what I mean by that is that front bezel is what's holding up the CRT. It's just like the Panasonic one we were just working on. You can see how clean everything is here. It's funny how it's a little bit dirty right there on that sticker, though. That's odd. Like, I wonder if this is a used CRT, actually. So it's a Chunghwa CRT, and these are good, and they've always generally been really reliable. I'm noticing, of course, the way this mounts is with this band. And I mentioned this is one of the ways the CRTs can mount, with ears, with front or back ears, that is, or with a band. And this has the band type. So that means if I wanted to put a Macintosh CRT in here, which I think would potentially work, because the case is so slim, like the edge of the CRT is right up against the edge there, I'm pretty sure I would have to cut those ears off and then use the band. It's pretty amazing, to be honest, just how tight the fit is with the CRT. It's just like right up on the edge there. It's absolutely right up on the edge. But yeah, this band is what's holding it in. So even though the CRT has a little, like, I don't know, maybe it's not 100% new, like there's little scratches on the paper and stuff here. Definitely the yoke, all the wires here, like the flyback cable, high voltage, everything else is absolutely perfect. Look. All right, so the question is, why isn't this starting? It's got a very standard looking switch mode power supply circuit right in here. So this is the transformer, bridge rectifier. Does it even have a fuse? I don't even see a fuse. So that's kind of crappy, actually, kind of crappy. There might be surface mount stuff on the bottom. It's hard to know, but I mean, a surface mount fuse, not sure about that. But there's the mains input right here. So the brown and blue wire, and then it goes to this red and black wire. This is the front power switch. So we need to just make sure that that actually has continuity, because what if we just have a dirty switch? We've had this happen before. The little Panasonic monitor that I worked on in the last video, that ultimate failure, that was also with a bad power switch. So we'll put this into continuity mode with the beeper, and let's get this switch connector off of here and just double check that we actually have continuity when I turn that switch on. All right, switch. Yep, switch is good. No issues whatsoever. Yeah, as far as the fuse goes, there's where the fuse would be. It's literally jumped over with a piece of metal wire. That's terrible. It would have been a 1 amp fuse there. For the 9 to 12 inch monitors, I should probably put a fuse holder in there. I'm sure I can go to my scrap boards and find a fuse holder and put that there. That is ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. How was this thing UL certified? That was written on the back cover. There's just no way with it jumped like that. I don't get it. Now, if we look over here, there's a little pot there. That's going to be for the B plus adjustment. So probably 12, 14 volts, something like that. It's hard to know. It's not like we have any schematics for this. But there's a small little IC that's right there. Hopefully that's visible, that little package. That's going to be the switch mode power supply controller IC. So this is what actually switches the transformers, the chopper transistor. So we need to make sure when I plug this in that we're actually getting voltage on this little IC. So I need to take a look. It looks like a TI part, so at least it's not some kind of fake part. I need to look up the pinout on this, and we need to make sure that it actually has voltage on it when this thing turns on, because it's got a bootstrap to start switching to then output the correct voltage to the monitor. I presume our problem is within this circuit right here. And a lot of times, see this capacitor right here? This little cap is the reservoir cap. So the mains will feed through like a large resistor and slowly charge that cap up. And then that's enough to kind of bootstrap the little switch mode controller IC. If it's failed, for instance, then that won't happen and this thing will never actually start. And there's certainly a lot of components on here that just aren't populated, like they really scrimped and cheaped out at the end. Luckily, there's no glue that looks like it's bad or dangerous, like it's going to damage stuff. The glue that's all on here all appears to be just hot glue. So that's not bad. I don't see any capacitors that look bulged or leaky. I mean, it's just kind of hot glue all over the place, but it's nice and soft. Really what we need to do is we need to just validate that we are getting the correct output from this. And this is the power LED, which is connected right over there. But I'm just gonna spend a moment to take a look and just inspect and see what I can see from the top side. And then I think I'm gonna clip on to stuff with the multimeter. So we're gonna check to see if we have voltages there while I plug this into the mains. And of course, it goes without saying that this is dangerous. So don't do this unless you know how to do so safely. I'm gonna be feeding mains input voltage into this thing and measuring voltages on the switch mode power supply. So we have potentially lethal voltages all around here. So only do this if you know how to be safe. And that's ignoring the whole other side of the monitor where the high voltage is. Probably be like 10 to 12,000 volts for the CRT that are generated by that. And you know what's funny is like, here's me going like, this is not gonna be a repair. This is just gonna be just a normal video where I plug in some new stuff. It's just gonna work and then it's gonna be awesome. And then that's gonna be that. Not quite, Adrian, not quite. First thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to measure right on the output of the bridge rectifier. It's labeled with AC on the 2 middle pins and the outside pins are plus and minus. So I'm going to switch this into DC and I'm going to need to plug the back cover back in with this thing on here so I can feed power into the monitor. Oh, you know what's funny? I'm noticing, by the way, that there's a fuse on here at least. So it's got at least a fuse of some kind. So there's some kind of a fuse there. So I need to make sure that we are actually getting the high voltage DC out of the bridge rectifier. If not, then the problem is upstream, like that fuse that potentially is blown already, which is bad if it blew instantly. The power strip that feeds this thing is all off, by the way. Otherwise I would not be just willy-nilly plugging stuff in like this. But let's put the multimeter right here so you can actually see it. Make sure everything is clear if for some reason this thing does turn on. All right, and power switch is on the monitor now. I should expect to see something like 160 volts on there. Here we go, 3, 2, 1. We do, 166 volts, so we don't have a bad fuse in that plug. The bridge rectifier is working. Why isn't the monitor starting? That's our question. Okay, so I'm going to clip onto this large resistor that's right here, which I think should be feeding the capacitor that feeds the switch mode controller. And there we go, it's at 13 volts, 14 volts. I wonder if the switch mode power supply is actually running right now. It's interesting how it's just sort of creeping up though. I don't know what voltage this chip needs. The power's off right now, but see there's a large resistor, that pink one, that's where I clipped on the positive lead to, and I figure that's charging that cap that then goes to the little controller there. So I'm going to look up the data sheet for this TI part, and we've got to figure out what voltage it needs to kind of start. And I just realized there's something we can do. There's a diode that's kind of on the left side of that transformer, which I figure is going to be used for probably the output voltage that goes to the monitor itself. So if the switch mode power supply is running and I turn it back on, let's see if we get anything there. Oh, the monitor just turned on. So now it's running. 17 volts. That must be the B+. Okay, well that's funny. So I think our issue here is we do have some dodgy caps. And they just took a little while to start. And that really does, the power's off again to this thing. That really points to this little capacitor right here. This one for that little controller IC being our problem. Let's clip back onto this large resistor and let's just watch what this is when the monitor is running. The monitor is running. Okay, 17 volts. So remember when I first turned it on, it wasn't really going up to 17 volts. It was sort of slowly creeping up. Again, I think it's that cap. That cap was not charging properly. Yeah, now the monitor is working. It looks fine. It's just on. If we turn it back off, my suspicion, I'm going to poke at it. My suspicion is it's that cap right there. I'm going to have to change on the other monitor, and it's going to make this thing work reliably. It's possible all the other caps on here are also just crap. Brand on that is, can't read it. I can't read it on any of these caps, but they're all probably junk. But for some reason, that cap is the one that usually prevents things from starting. If we have any kind of issues with the monitor, like with linearity or other weird problems, then it's going to be due to the other caps on here that maybe need to be replaced and stuff like that. That might cause problems like weird deflection and stuff like that. So let me plug in the test pattern generator into the in jack. I don't think the in and out really matter on this. And we'll turn this around. Power is off right now. But let's see what this looks like when I power it up. This whole door thing is so cheap feeling. Really just bad. Okay, here we go. So it took a while for the power supply to start. Again, I think it's that cap. But it is running. Oh, it's really, really, really too bright. Caps are not scratchy. That's excellent. So it's up and running. Picture looks good. I'm happy with that. We got controls here for horizontal hold and vertical hold. Well, the vertical hold pot, it does nothing. Now, I think that's actually okay. I think the driver electronics on this board are so variable, like it's designed to work with 50 hertz, 60 hertz, whatever, because this is modern. The set is modern. So it locks on so well to vertical hold that that control doesn't even do anything. But I bet you if I take away the video signal that goes into this, then this does have an effect. I know you can't really see it. Let me turn up the brightness. Which one's brightness? This one? Okay, so see that flicker? When I turn the control, see how it's having an effect? So while the monitor is free running and not locked to anything, this control does work. But as soon as you plug a video signal in, it locks in, and then it doesn't need that control anymore. That's just indicative of this modern stuff, because this is so new. Whatever chip is in here that's like locking onto the video signal, the sync signal that is, it's just like, no problem. So that works. Yeah, it's bright. It's bright, everyone. I have to turn the contrast way down. Okay, cool. Now we have horizontal hold as well. Well, that does work, but it has a center detent. And this is really also adjusts the free running oscillator. So we turn this off and I use the, well, I can show you what it does actually. Okay, so Spectroid is running right now. Let's zoom in a little bit so you can see that a bit clearer. All right, so Spectroid is running. Don't worry about any kind of bars. That's just the camera artifact. 15.750 kilohertz. That is what my test pattern generator is working. That is locked on perfect. But right now, the monitor is locked to that horizontal sync signal. So adjusting that horizontal control doesn't do anything. In fact, if we restore this so it still plays, and I turn this, while the image moves around a little bit, it doesn't actually change anything on here. But if I take away the video signal, now that control will have an effect. So it's minor, but it's there. So look down here. You see this thing, how it moved left and right? That is the horizontal oscillator changing. So on the top end, oddly enough, it's 15.750 kilohertz. That's with it turned all the way to one side. We turn it all the way to the other side. And now we're at 15.562 kilohertz. That's what it is on the other end. Ultimately, with this kind of modern stuff, it doesn't really matter what it's adjusted to because it just locks on anyways. But ultimately what you would do is you would let it run free like this with no video signal, and you turn it till it was around 15.7 and the vertical was around 60 hertz, which you can't measure on here, but you could just see it. Then that would mean it doesn't have to do any kind of work to lock into the video signal. But these modern things, it just doesn't even matter. It is just so locked in. It is just able to lock in so easily. Okay, so color bars look perfect. And if we take a look at the geometry, how does this look? I mean, it's not great, but it's not terrible either. Now this particular CRT, the yoke, if we can move the camera here so I can show you, has these little magnets here. You can turn these, and if you turn these, they're glued in place, but you just turn them and then re-glue them. You can actually fix the corner geometry. So the ones here and here will fix these two corners. This fixes kind of the middle section, and they're all around, and you can turn and adjust these, have a little painted part with a pole, and that lets you really correct for the corner geometry. Now, a lot of these security camera monitors don't have those, but it's kind of cool that this one does. Like the bottom here is, you know, really messed up. So I'm just going to put a glove on here just because I got to stick my hands in here while it's running. And I'm going to turn that. And I'm going to make that adjustment. And you see at the bottom corner here is less bad now. Now I think the whole yoke needs to be turned a little bit as well. So it's also not the best, but yeah, you can just fiddle with these and really dial it in and get it looking really good. I'm going to loosen the yoke and turn it as well. They had it kind of glued in place. So they tried with this thing. They tried to get it all dialed in, but I think they spent like all of 10 seconds doing it, and it could have been better. That's all. It could have been better. But that already looks better. This corner is a little messed up still, right? Bit better there. Yeah, that's better. Because, you know, if we're going to be using this with a computer, it's kind of messed up over here too. If we're going to be using it with a computer, we want this to look as good as possible. Right, so I'm going to turn this off. Let's see how long it takes to turn back on when it's been running for a little while. It's quite possible that it's sort of come back to life. Nope, it's still slow. It took a couple seconds there to actually come back. But it's working. All right, cool. That's really quite cool. It's kind of what I figured as the problem would be with this thing. It's kind of what I figured. All right, so let's take a look at some of the controls we have on the inside. So vertical linearity, vertical size, focus, and sub brightness. They are glued with this little bit of glue on there. That's all we have available back here. Some missing components. I don't know what this is used for. Maybe audio. It's quite possible, like I said, this board is actually used in the other versions of this monitor as well. In fact, you know, I know it is, at least because the fuse holder we looked at earlier, it says 9 to 12 and 14 to 17. So this board's used up to 17-inch monitor. So the 20-inch had its own thing going on. Now to change out for the larger monitors, they probably, well, the flyback might have been the same, but they would have changed some of these components here because I noticed there's like various footprints. So they have slightly different components. This tunes the deflection circuit. Now what we also have available to us is a coil right here, and you have to use a plastic tool to adjust this. This is going to be the width coil, so you can adjust the width. Helpful. And we can also adjust the centering by moving the centering rings. These are these rings right here. There are two of them. There's a tab right there, and there's a tab right there. Sorry, it's a little hard to see. There's one of the tabs. The other tab is on this side. You got to break that glue, and then you can move these around and move the whole image to center it. And of course, you know, adjusting these little magnets, just twisting them and stuff to get everything looking good. Now, what else is there to talk about? So the front board of the controls, Down here, this has a little PCB. So the pots are not just soldered onto the main board. This part of the board, by the way, that's unpopulated is definitely for the speaker because there's a connector that's not there. It says SPK for speaker. There's a little IC that's missing. That would be the audio amplifier. And there's a connector, a couple connectors here, which probably go to this backboard that bring the audio to this little section. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's a couple connections that go like to the front for a volume control of some kind. From a serviceability standpoint, it's kind of annoying, this board, because there are fasteners that hold it down that are kind of under the CRT. Like that one you can get to, but there's one on the other side over here that I can't really get to without taking the CRT out. That's annoying. There's a bunch of fasteners back here too and here. So to change that cap, because I definitely got to change that cap because this thing just is slow starting and annoying, I'm going to want to take this board out. And the CRT has a neck board, as you can see. I'm just checking it out. So there is a transistor on here. So the final stage of the cathode drive is actually on this board, which is good in a way because that actually, well, the closer it is to the CRT, potentially the higher resolution it is. Although it didn't look like it was super duper sharp staring at the screen with the test pattern I had on there. And it's so funny because looking at the soldering that's on here, definitely, yeah, lead free because it's kind of got this dull appearance. A little bit of rework was done right there for some reason. So as far as the cathode drive, the base of that transistor goes through this resistor and it goes to this first pin. So this green wire, this is the cathode drive signal that goes down to the board, sort of in that front area over there. So if I do need to make a mod to this to kind of sharpen it up, it usually happens on the stage right before the final stage. You do a little bit of a mod and it's going to be to the board down under there. All right, well, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend a moment off camera. I'm just going to take the board out so then we can take a look and see, if there's anything written on the bottom. Maybe they'll tell us who made this thing. It does say Li Chen over here on the side. So I guess that's the manufacturer of the main PCB and Chunhua being the CRT. Anyways, I'm going to get the board out. I'm going to swap out that little tiny cap that's by the switch mode controller because I'm pretty sure that's what causes the slow start on this thing. And maybe I'll check a few of the other caps and stuff while I'm in there. Usually if that one cap is a little guy is bad or has a high ESR, which is probably what's wrong with it. Usually the high ESR keeps it from charging properly. Then there's going to be other ones on here that are going to be similar to that. But it's a CRT. They're pretty forgiving about that. But I need to look at the brand and see if there's any of the other ones that look exactly like that, because those are going to be the problems specifically. So anyways, let me get this board out of here. The quality of the work on here is bad. Well, specifically because this is the early days of lead-free, 2008. I don't know how early that was, but early-ish. All the connections are like oxidized and kind of dull looking, except for some stuff that looked like it was done by hand, like the flyback. There's literally a big blob right there. That is ridiculous. Like a big blob of solder is just laying on there. Another one there, 2 blobs, off cut there and a blob. Wild quality control. Anyways, what we want to look at is this cap, the one I think is troublesome. So let's try to break through the oxidation that's on this thing because it looks crusty. Well, 89 microfarad and it's 0.86 the ESR. That's not even that bad. But clearly you saw it was starting slowly. Let's switch this over to 120 Hertz because that's actually what this cap is doing, because it's taking the rectified mains input. All right, we're at 1.4 ohms. Let's take a look at what this cap, what the value is. I'm sure it's 100 microfarad. It looks fine. I mean, the ESR is a little high, I suppose. I don't know. Let's get this off. There's our cap, 100 microfarad, 25 volts, brand name, TN, whatever TN is. I will be putting a better cap on there than that. All right, I'm looking for my caps. Here's a bag of 150s. If we go over a little bit, it's not a big deal because it will just take a little bit longer to start. But if we go with something that's too small, like this 22, the issue might be that it won't be stable because there'll be ripple on the voltage going into that little controller IC. Oh, look, here we go. 100 microfarad, 25 volts. Perfect. These are Rubicon caps. Let's see how this one measures. All right, so 90 microfarads, so very similar, but then we can see the ESR is about half. So 0.7 ohms, the other one was like 1 point something. I think I've already lost the other cap. That didn't take me long. Yes, already. Oh no, here it is, right here. Here it is. It's funny how much bigger it is. 100 microfarad, 25 volts. Yeah, same specs. Let's put this one directly into the little proby thing here. So it's not even half. I mean, it's not, it doesn't seem bad. This cap does not seem bad. But I guess when we put this one in, we'll see if the thing starts faster or not. And with the other one that's not starting at all, I can just swap this out directly, and then we can see if the thing starts. I'm just realizing too, what's interesting is the footprint on the board is a lot bigger than is the space for this little tiny cap. I wonder if I should use something bigger. It probably doesn't matter. I'll just use this one. If this doesn't let it start properly, then I can try other values in here, as long as the voltage is, you know, similar. We saw that it was like 17 volts is what it ran at. It's a little close for comfort, to be honest, actually, 25. Maybe I should spend a second to kind of reflow a few things while I'm here. I mean, these joints are just horrible. Oh, it makes this like weird popping noise. So strange. This lead-free stuff is just terrible. It's funny, I can just like see where there's been someone touching up things on here. Like that joint's been touched up. These two have been touched up. The flyback's been touched up. I guess when it came off the assembly line, there were issues, so to speak. So someone touched up a little bit of stuff here and there. One joint right there. You can tell because they're all shiny. I mean, that's how you know that it's been touched up. Where's the connection that goes to the deflection coil? It's right here. I'm going to reflow this. This actually looks like someone reflowed this, but these are notorious connection issue areas. And if it's bad, it can cause problems. So I'm just going to reflow this. Why is it popping? Is there like air trapped in the lead-free solder? That's so strange. I don't really have a lot of experience working on stuff from this era. Just to make sure this board doesn't go and move around, because I'm just going to test it first. I'll put a couple of the screws in on the back side. That'll just hold it from moving around. And I guess I realize now about the whole fuse situation not being here. It doesn't really matter because that fuse, I looked at it on the bottom side, that is just directly in line with the mains input. And I think originally this would have had a power cord, a fixed power cord, as opposed to the IEC input. And since the IEC input actually has that fuse on it, it's not super important where the fuse is on the board or on the jack. So the jack is actually, well, I don't know if one's better than the other, so there's no point to have two fuses. So I'll just leave it the way it is now with the fuse on this back thing here. Okay, everyone, let's turn this off. Power is, let's plug this in. Before I turn this on, let me just double check. High voltage connected, yoke's connected, neck board is on, power's hooked up, video signal is there. All right, we're ready to go. Here we go. See if this turns on more quickly. It's gonna still take a second because switch mode power supplies can take like a second to charge up that cap and then turn on. That's normal, but it shouldn't take like 3 or 4 seconds, but here we go. Okay, I mean, that just might be normal, like 2 seconds or whatever that took. And we'll turn it off and back on again. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's just the normal startup time for this switch mode power supply. But then the other monitor, I swear I left it on for more than just a second or two and it did not start up. But maybe I needed to give it a little bit more time, and that's what I just didn't do. So maybe there was no reason to actually switch this cap out. Okay, well, let me put this back together. I'll grab the other one and we'll do this test and we'll see if it turns on if I just wait. Well, we know how long this takes. Let me see. I'm just curious if I time how long it actually takes to turn this thing on. Here we go. All right, so it's like it's under 2 seconds. It was like 1.5 seconds or so it took to turn on. Longer than you would expect for something that has a linear power supply, which is just instant, but it's fine. It turns on and it's working. All right, here we go. Let's try the other Pelco. So remember, it's like 1.5 seconds or so. Oh, it freaking works too. Oh, that was interesting. So we did have a little bit of cap issues there. See how it was rolling over? I think some caps in there were reforming or something. Oh, wow, this one is so crooked. Look at me jumping the gun. Once again, jumping the gun. I just didn't wait. I guess I turned it on, like waited a second. I'm like, oh, it's broken, shut it right off. I didn't give it a chance. Okay. Let's get this one looking okay. Yes, it looks fine as well. That's excellent. I'm going to turn the power off to it and let's just see how long it takes to start after it's run for a second or two now. Oops. Yeah, similar. So this one worked the whole time. Okay. No need to change the cap. So there you go. If you get one of these, you turn it on, you just wait like 1.5 seconds, and that's normal. Because even with a brand new cap for startup, it just works. I'm going to leave the Rubicon in here. There's no point to take it out and switch back to that other one, the TN brand. There it is. It's freaking working. Very nice. So while editing the footage, you will have seen that when I first turned these monitors on, the first one, which is the one we're looking at right here, this is the second monitor, I left it on for 6 seconds when I first plugged it in and it did not power up. And then the second monitor, which is the one I ended up opening and swapping the cap on, I left that one on for 4 seconds and it also did not power up. So definitely these caps, they needed to kind of reform. And I guess if I just left it, it would have worked because that big resistor would have kept charging that cap and eventually it would have got to the point and then it switched on the power supply and then the whole rest of the caps would reform. We saw in the monitor that I just turned on, the one I haven't opened yet, that it was folding over. That absolutely is some of the capacitors were reforming. And I mean, this monitor is only from 2008 and yet they needed to reform. Not good quality caps in here. Definitely not good quality. But hey, it's working now and it should be fine, at least for the time being. So let me spend a moment just to put this one fully back together again, and then we'll run these together. I'll use that pass-through, and let's just hook up a computer to these and make sure that they work. Oh, I really should open this one. Well, I'll do that off camera to fix the geometry and stuff, because that's terrible how bad it is. Anyhow, let me get this one back together, and then we'll see these side by side. Right, the monitor is back together. All the screws are back into both of these. And I think it's this one that I changed the cap on. This one is the original untouched, unopened one. I can tell because that little lead-free sticker is sort of wrapped around the back cover on this one. When I turn on the power strip, these are both plugged in. Let's see if they turn on at the exact same time. One with the original startup cap, one with the replacement. 3, 2, 1. Yep, pretty much identical. And I have the Apple IIc hooked up. There it is. Oddly enough, this one sort of wakes up faster, like the CRT, and this one comes online quicker. Couldn't really tell you why. Maybe some of the controls inside are adjusted a little bit differently, like the sub brightness and stuff like that. Let's see what happens if we do that. I'd say it's a bit too bright. Apple IIc outputs a pretty bright signal. Let's turn this down. Everything is shifted over to the right. That's typical with the Apple IIc. It outputs an image that is kind of shifted over. There is the horizontal hold control, which we can use to shift it over a little bit. Wrong knob. There we go. The thing is, if you want to get that centered more, you're going to have to, sorry about that, you will need to actually use those centering rings inside. There's no other real way to center it. But the Apple IIc does output video. It always has. That's shifted over a little bit. I can see that the brightness is a little too high on this one. So we'll get those pretty much tuned exactly the same. Now, how sharp is it? Well, when we do this, that looks really sharp. I can see every vertical line that makes up the low-res color on the Apple II perfectly. That tells me that if we reboot this thing and we go to PR number 3, then it's going to be pretty sharp. It's decent. It's decent. That 1000 line thing in the manual is a bit of a lie, I must say. Now my sharpness mod, I happen to know if I did the sharpness mod, it would definitely improve the overall appearance of sharpness. So any kind of vertical risers would be a little brighter. It's basically like the equivalent of turning up the sharpness control, which neither of these monitors have. It's still 100% readable though. And obviously 40 columns mode is also, completely sharp. So if you were thinking about using one of these with your Apple II, for instance, like a retro build that you want to sit on top of your old original Apple II, they're great. I mean, they have the same issues where they have a bit of like a DC restoration thing going on. And what I mean by that is, for instance, if I make the screen bright white and I make it where I can just start to see like the scan lines visible over here in the border region on both of these. And now we exit. Well, now you can see, it's funny, the two things are a little bit different, even though they're one serial number apart. Because the screen is not full white, there is a little bit visibility of the scan lines now. So I can use this to kind of adjust it. I'll look in the camera to get these adjusted exactly the same. So I say that's pretty much the same. Turn down the contrast. Okay, and now if we go back into the full screen diagnostics, now I can't really see the scan lines anymore in the border region. That is typical of these monitors. They are all like this. This has to do with like the clamping of the video signal to the sync pulse and stuff, and these don't really do that. It's possible with a little bit of a mod, it could be improved, but that's just something that all of these security camera monitors did. All the way back to the 70s, they were all the same. Some are worse than others, to be honest. These are less bad than some of the ones that I've seen. Now, generally, because the Apple II is a monochrome system, it's not that big a deal because you're not worried about shades of gray. So you just turn it down till you don't really see the scan lines, or you just see the scan lines like that. Adjust the contrast so it looks okay, like that. So that looks good. And now if we run the diagnostics, yeah, it gets a little bit dimmer now. That's one of the issues, is when you have full screen stuff, it dims out a little bit, but you just turn the contrast up a bit. Still looks totally good. And now it looks good. You don't really see the scan lines. In the camera, you can see it just a little bit, but I don't really see it. All right, everyone. Well, I have the Apple II out, so you know what that means. Time for some Fat City. Of course, I can't really get the disk into the floppy drive because of the 2C side-mounted disk drive. No problem. We'll just lift it up. All right, here we go. Making sure the speaker is working. There we go. Oop, so you can see both monitors. Close the front doors. I don't mind that logo even, it's not so bad. There we go. Fat City, baby. Fat City. Typical color Apple II graphics on a monochrome screen. You see those vertical lines. Perfect. And we're gonna be using the keyboard. Yeah, I mean, everything looks great here. Zero issues that I could see. Again, the cathode drive circuit's not the best. On actual computer monitors, they did a better job with the cathode drive circuits. You don't get this variability between the light and the dark. It's all pretty much the same. But these are designed for video, so that's just sort of par for the course. But they look good. And obviously I have them hooked up together. You know, one is set for high impedance, one is set for 75 ohms. There we go. Awesome. Well, there we have it. There is the Pelco new old stock 9-inch monochrome CRTs PM9 or PMM9A. And I'm really happy with these. I was a bit dejected feeling after that Panasonic monitor debacle in the last video. And look at me. I'm so quick to jump to something is wrong that even with these, even though nothing is wrong, I thought there's something was wrong. I'll have to review the footage when I edit to see that when I turned it on the first time, did I even wait more than 1 second before just assuming they were broken? I think I'm just so used to these monitors always having linear supplies and the light comes on instantly that even after 1 second, I was like, oh, something's wrong. And I'm always scared to leave things turned on when there's something wrong, because what if something is wrong and it's like burning a hole in the PCB inside or something bad is happening? So that's why I was like, oh, just turn it off. I'm gonna look inside, I'm gonna inspect. And then it was only really when I started clipping onto the power supply to see that, you know, we had the DC, the high voltage DC, 166 volts, that was normal. I could see it charging the cap to start the power supply, and I just waited long enough and then it started. I guess one good thing is we got to see inside of these. So if you have one of these and you're wondering about the CRT compatibility, it's got no ears. So you can't take one of these and put it into a Mac or into something else, not without coming up with a way to mount it with that band. It's possible, you'd have to get creative, but you couldn't just screw this in. So as a source of brand new CRTs, not necessarily the right thing, but we do know now that the B plus is 17 volts on these. So if that switch mode power supply were bad, you could theoretically run this off of USB Type-C power supply, for instance, using what's that variable power delivery thing, and just give it 17 volts, and then it would work. It's sure it's like 20 watts or something like that. So that's totally something that USB Type-C could deliver. So yeah, you could run these off of that. And you know what? I think because, I mean, just look at the power supplies. There were really small little heat sinks on there. Or sorry, the entire board had really small heat sinks. These are going to be pretty efficient. My other old versions of these have like giant linear supplies in them and transformers and stuff, and they get really warm, especially if you stack them up. I bet you these things run nice and cool. As far as longevity, I'm sure the CRT is fine. Chunhua makes good stuff. I've had plenty of color CRTs from them, and they seem to work really well. And they were really the only ones making CRTs, as far as I'm aware, like into the 2000s. So I guess they were still making these monochrome ones, or these were like new old stock, which is why they looked a little bit scratched up. I don't know, but they're perfectly bright and they look really good. So my verdict, if you find one of these new old stock, thumbs up, pretty good. Could be a good way to get a little monitor that goes with your old Apple II, and I think it fits right in there. Even though this is from 2008, we saw it looks just like the Pi 4, which is from 1982. And I bet you there's versions from the 70s that look just like this too. So you can't really tell the difference other than the fact that the metal case is this dark kind of gunmetal gray color as opposed to the beige, which is what most of these cameras or most of these monitors are when they are from the original, like, 70s and 80s. And I think some of the other ones from the 70s would have had kind of cool silver accents and stuff like that, none of which this has. But we saw the Pi 4 from 82 didn't have that either. So it's still a good fit, if you ask me, for your old Apple II setup. So there we go. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, thumbs up. For me, I'm very happy with this purchase. Did I need to buy these? No, I did not. I already had like 2 more of these monitors. Not these exact ones, but that are white phosphor ones, 9-inch, that work. And I also have the Pi 4, which is amber, and that works. So I now have 5 of these. But I like having these, and I think, well, just the idea of the new old stock is pretty awesome. So yeah, comment down below what your thoughts are on this. Huge thanks to my supporters' names are going up. I think it'll be this side of the screen. You can become a supporter. There's a link down below for YouTube membership, Patreon, stuff like that. And I guess that's going to be that. So stay healthy, stay safe, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.